My husband was called a broke loser by my father, completely unaware my husband was the biggest investor I secretly managed. 11:45 p.m. My phone screen pierced the darkness of my home office with a single notification. It was a forwarded receipt from a high-end French restaurant. $15,000. The total illuminated my desk like a spotlight on a crime. Below it, a message from my mother, Sandra, just cover this on your account. It's the least you can do after bringing down the tone with that boring outfit. A moment later, my sister Tiffany added a heart emoji. I sat there, surrounded by the glow of monitors tracking commercial real estate and global tech valuations. I didn't react with shock or anger. I just looked at the screen. They genuinely believed I was their endless source of funds. They mistook my silence for compliance. But silence is never simply agreement. Sometimes, it's the quiet concentration before the inevitable strike. Drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I'd love to know who's part of our community. I sent no reply. I didn't argue. Instead, I turned to my computer. To my family, these hands were only useful for organizing books at a small public institution or pouring expensive vintage wine for my father's potential partners. They had no idea that these very hands oversaw a portfolio of boutique luxury hotels spread across 3 continents. I bypassed my corporate systems and accessed my confidential investment platform. Biometric scan, security clearance, the central dashboard loaded instantly. I scrolled past the housing developments and technology stocks until I located a hidden file deep within the archives. Its label was plain, Family Financial Liabilities. I opened it. MC1. Inside were records of my father's extensive gambling debts from years ago, liabilities I had quietly acquired from loan sharks. There were statements from my mother's credit cards, completely maxed out on designer accessories she could not afford, all consolidated into a low-interest personal debt I managed. There was the lease for the exclusive apartment my sister occupied, paid for by a holding company I owned. For almost a decade, I had been the unseen builder of their economic stability. I had consistently saved them from disaster. Staring at the figures, I finally faced the question I had ignored for 10 years. Why? When you grow up in an environment where love is conditional, you start to believe that acceptance is solely transactional. You build your own confinement without physical barriers. You think you are being a responsible child, but truly, you are a hostage covering your own ransom, constantly hoping the captors will eventually choose to love you. MC2, but tonight, the invisible restraint finally broke. My generosity hadn't been a kindness. It had been an open-ended line of credit they had abused for years. And tonight, that line of credit was irrevocably closed. I navigated to the subsection marked Living Expenses, Jeffrey and Sandra. The status indicator glowed green, automatic renewal active. I didn't hesitate, but I hovered for half a second, not because I was unsure, but because I understood there would be no undoing what came next. This was the correction of a systemic economic failure. I clicked Terminate. The system required confirmation. I clicked Confirm. The indicator turned solid red, discontinued. I repeated the process for the credit accounts and my sister's vehicle lease. One by one, I cut off the life support to their financial existence. It took less than 3 minutes to dismantle the protective structure I had spent 6 years constructing. When I was finished, the total outstanding amount owed to me flashed on the screen, $5.2 million. I intended to collect every cent. I shut the laptop and turned away. In the soft light of the bedroom, I could see the shape of Caleb, my husband, sleeping. He was the only one who truly knew. He knew I didn't work at the city library. He knew that behind the quiet demeanor, I was an uncompromising negotiator. He had begged me to stop subsidizing them, telling me they would never alter their behavior. I hadn't listened then, but I was listening now. MC3, 7:00 a.m. The sun hadn't yet fully cleared the downtown high-rises when the phone buzzed persistently against the granite kitchen countertop. 17 missed calls. 42 text messages. And now the phone was vibrating again. It was Sandra. I answered, placing the call on speaker while I prepared my coffee. I didn't speak first. "You malicious, disrespectful little girl," her voice was shrill. "Do you even grasp the magnitude of your actions, the absolute disgrace?" The payment was rejected in front of the entire staff. The manager approached, looking at us like we were common thieves. "Do you comprehend what it's like to be pitied by a waiter?" I took a slow sip of my black coffee. "It sounds like a liquidity issue. Perhaps you should have verified your available funds before ordering the $12,000 imported wine." "Don't you dare lecture me," she shrieked. You cut us off. I tried to use the emergency reserve for the ride home, and it was gone. You left us stranded. Bryce had to call his own mother for taxi money. Bryce is an influencer, Mina. If people discover we couldn't pay a single dinner bill, our reputation is destroyed. That was the essence of it. No concern for me, only the terror of a performer realizing the spotlight is off. Fix this immediately, she commanded. Transfer the funds right now, and you need to apologize to Tiffany, she has been distraught all night. MC4 I ended the call. I checked social media and saw Tiffany's profile displayed a post, a plain black screen. Some individuals just can't tolerate your success, so they try to sabotage you. Jealousy is a terrible illness. Get well soon, sis, toxic family. The audacity was magnificent. She honestly believed my entire existence was defined by coveting her ability to take selfies. Then came the voicemail from my father, Jeffrey. His voice was thick and slightly slurred. Mina, listen to me closely. I know who convinced you to do this. It's that husband of yours, that irrelevant teacher who has nothing. He's a parasite, Mina. You are allowing an outsider to dismantle your family lineage. You correct this, or I swear to God, I will remind you of your place. Quote, you are allowing an outsider to dismantle your family lineage. I glanced over at Caleb. He was the founder of an educational platform governments licensed and global institutions quietly depended on. He had anonymously purchased my father's gambling obligations just to ensure my childhood home wasn't taken by bookies. He was the only true support system they had. Caleb looked up, hearing the venom. He didn't get angry, he simply offered a sad, knowing smile. They aren't upset that they lost the money, he said gently. They're upset that they lost their power over you. MC5, I deleted the voicemail. I didn't engage. To them, this was a battle of emotions, but I was going to liquidate. I stood up and straightened my professional jacket. It was time for my real job, not the library but the office tower downtown. I didn't stop at the library. I drove to the massive glass and steel skyscraper that dominated the city view and pulled into the spot designated CEO. Taking the dedicated elevator to the 42nd floor, I felt the physical transformation occur. I was no longer the disappointment. I was the majority owner. The receptionist nodded as I walked by. Good morning, Ms. Vane. Elena is waiting in conference room B. Elena was a corporate specialist focused on hostile takeovers. She didn't concern herself with feelings, she specialized in leverage. MC6, I walked into the meeting room. Elena had a precise arrangement of documents ready. I reviewed the transactions, Elena said. Termination of the living allowance is an aggressive opening move. It was not aggressive enough, I countered. I need them to fully comprehend that their access to capital has been permanently revoked. Elena slid a substantial document toward me, a formal notice of debt acceleration. Itemized every single loan I had secretly purchased. Buried within the legal fine print was a provision Elena had insisted on years ago. The lender retains the full, unilateral right to demand immediate repayment of the entire principal balance at any time for any reason. The principal is $5,200,000, Elena confirmed. If we execute this, they have exactly 30 days to remit the full amount. If they fail to pay, we immediately initiate asset seizure. We take the house, we take the vehicles. I trailed my finger over the massive figure, $5.2 million, the cost of my long-term silence. Proceed, I instructed. Once this is delivered, you aren't their daughter anymore, Elena warned. You are their creditor. Quote, I haven't been their daughter for a long time, I replied. I've just been their bank. My phone vibrated. A text from Caleb. Your dad threatened to call my company and try to get me terminated. He called me a broke loser. He sent a second text immediately after. Take the restrictions off, Mina. Let them finally see who we truly are. I instructed Elena to dispatch the courier package on official MV Holdings letterhead. I was finished managing their emotional state. Then Elena paused, her expression shifting. Mina, there's more. A second secured loan taken out on the family residence from 3 years ago. $250,000. MC7, I didn't authorize that, I said. The signature bears your name, it's a perfect forgery. But on the signing date, you were documented as being overseas for business. My father had counterfeited my signature to finance Tiffany's extravagant lifestyle. This wasn't a civil dispute, it was felony bank fraud. I told Elena to prepare the police report but to hold back on filing it. I needed one final thing, an undeniable public admission. MC8, I invited them both to dinner at the Zenith Lounge. They arrived radiating false assurance, assuming I was paying. When the final check arrived, it went directly to Caleb. The waiter addressed him by name and asked him to finalize the deed transfer for the building. That was the moment the realization hit them. We owned the property, the club, the entire complex. My mother didn't speak. She just stared at the legal papers I slid across the table like they had rewritten the laws of gravity. I told them plainly, they owed me $5.2 million in 30 days. Beneath that was the forged loan. They would avoid prison, but they would immediately surrender everything else. 30 days later, they inevitably defaulted. I dispatched the eviction team. Watching them move into a cramped apartment they once ridiculed, I finally grasped that their entire attitude of superiority had always been on credit. Without possessions, there was absolutely nothing left. We sold the house and donated the recovered equity to a scholarship fund. I deleted the last encrypted file connected to them and closed my computer. I didn't destroy my family. I simply stopped financing a fiction. If you've ever had to pay for your own freedom from the people who should have given it freely, you're absolutely not alone. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Winds of Thought.